Hello, welcome to Relativity and our December Fireside Chat. I'm Brendan McLaughlin and I'm a senior recruiter here at Relativity. Today our topic is I Choose You, Pikachu, skills that lead to a high-functioning security team. I'm joined with our Calder 7 security team, Amanda, Emily, and Hector. But before we hand it over to Amanda and the Calder 7 team, a little bit more about Relativity and who we are. We are the industry leaders in e-discovery and unstructured data technology. We were founded in 2001 and Relativity is headquartered in Chicago with offices worldwide in San Francisco, London, Krakow, Hong Kong, and Melbourne, Australia. We currently have about 1,200 plus employees globally, 320,000 enabled platform users, and our Relativity Fest had 2,000 plus attendees, the largest in-person e-discovery industry conference and the second largest conference in the legal tech industry. We also have 100 plus development partners with 130 plus apps developed for the Relativity ecosystem. And Relativity is available in 48 countries and Relativity One is available in 8 countries and growing. Our motto is organize data, discover the truth, and act on it. You can follow us on our social media pages listed below. Thanks for attending our December Fireside Chat, and make sure to visit our career pages at relativity.com, company careers. And we've also opened up to look at remote employees across the country. So even if you're not located in Chicago, please check out our career pages if you're interested in opportunities at Relativity. And lastly, pay attention to our January 13th Fireside Chat with topic to be announced soon. And without further ado, I hand it over to Amanda and the Calder 7 security team.
Thank you, Brendan. I'm really excited to be here. We got really into the theme, so we've updated our backgrounds, so hopefully people can follow along. My name is Amanda Fennell. I'm the Chief Security Officer here at Relativity, and we have a couple people joining us, but before I intro them, I'll kind of give a little bit about Calder 7. We are the security team for Relativity, and inside there are 4 functions. One of them is our global team. They're based out of Krakow, and they have several different sub-teams inside there. We have our ORM, Operational Risk Management team, that's led by Steve Powell. We have our product security team led by Evan Larkin. And then we have our cybersecurity team, and we have 2 people with us today. So I will actually have Hector, if you could introduce your name and title so everyone knows how to pronounce it correctly. Let's go.
Hi, hello everyone. My name is Hector Peña. I'm a cyber manager for our detection and automation team. I've been with Relativity for 3.5 years and still going strong. I love working here, and thank you, Amanda. I'll kick it over to Emily to introduce herself.
Yeah, hi, I'm Emily Chu. I'm a cybersecurity analyst on our incident response team, and I've been at Relativity since June 2019.
All right, so June 2019, that is actually where we're going to pivot probably into one of our questions that we had here. I think there's probably, people have a lot of different backgrounds. They come from a lot of different areas, and there's a question about, coming into security. One of the things I think you have to talk about is what made you interested in security. So for our theme, I'll say that new Pokemon trainers usually ask the professor for advice on choosing a Pokemon. What is your advice for someone interested in a career for security? And I'll start with, I think we're going to start with Hector.
Great. So advice I can give somebody to I guess, someone interested in cybersecurity or security in general, doesn't have to be cybersecurity, is just be ready for the unexpected. So security is, you might do something from day to day that might be the same, but I can't tell you that something I did last week or a month or even 3 years ago being at Relativity was the same. New tools, technologies, processes, people, there's a lot of new dynamics that are constantly changing in security. So being ready for the unexpected, I guess if you want to go with the theme, the Pokemon trainer, there's a constant new lands, regions, people to meet. There's new objectives, and that's kind of how security is. So you kind of have to be ready for that model in your head. And then to build off of that, same thing for those high and low pressure situations. So if you're doing a gym battle, it's a high pressure. You're constantly on your feet. You got to be at your best. There's things going around you at all times, or low pressure, just training just day to day, and just sharpening your skills. And that's kind of the way I would approach it for security. So just be ready for anything new to pop up, and just be ready to go up and down at the same time as just chilling, relaxing, or just kind of high pressure, and your skills are at their best, ready to
Well,
go.
Hector, indicative of this, I mean, since you've done such a great job hitting home this theme, tell us about your background and how this is chosen.
So my specific background, I've been in security field as a general since 2013, so about 7 years. Um, Started off as networking, went into, I guess, network engineer, network security engineer, cyber analyst, manager. So moved my way up through that way, and that's kind of my background on here, and at least
Is your
pretty well.
Pokemon indicative of that? What's your Pokemon that you got?
So I have what's called a Gyarados. Before, I guess you could say him, he's just a big floppy fish called a Magikarp. Uh, he turns into a dragon, and I guess you could say, if that's how you want to use it. I don't try to consider my career prior to this a floppy fish or nothing like that, but yeah, I guess you could say this is where I'm at.
Your dragon, that's pretty cool. I'm not. I'm a fighting Pokemon up here. That was Hitmonchan, which is supposed to embody the spirit of it was like a championship boxer on its way to Olympics kind of thing. But these, for everyone, so they know, we actually took an online quiz to figure out which one we popped out as. So that's where these came from. We don't feel that they embody us per se, but the quiz says that it does.
Yeah.
Emily, you've got a 2-for-1 then. So this is my punching mode for you. So you've got to answer, what's your advice for someone interested in security? And also a little bit of background as well as yours. That's 3.
Okay. So I don't have as many Pokemon analogies as Hector, but I would say doing your research, I didn't know that there were so many different types or different areas of focus in security. So like Hector said, like there's just always something new. There's new technology, there's new everything. So security keeps growing, and doing your research and finding out like maybe which area you want to focus in or which one interests you most would be a great way to start. My background actually started in communication, and then I minored in computer science and then ended up pursuing cybersecurity. So I started in cyber in 2019. So my Pokemon, other side, my Pokemon I feel like is pretty accurate. Eevee can evolve into, I think like 5 different Pokemons, depending on which evolution stone you give it. So I feel like that's pretty accurate. I have a few different ways I could go.
Oh, that's cool. And that's a good point to point out. You know, Hector, you've been doing this for a hot minute, and you're in a role now managing a team for your detection and analytics and automation. And Emily, you've come into this getting an educational background, and now you have the potential to like pivot into different areas as well. So you're at like the crossroads, to get all really generic here on that. Speaking of on journey, many Pokemon trainers seek out the challenge of a legendary Pokemon on their journey. What kind of challenges or projects is your team working on? And Emily, I started with Hector last time, so now I'm going to you first.
Okay, so I'm on incident response, so a lot of what we do is responding, but also we like to make sure that we're being preventative and proactive.
Okay, so all right. And I think behind the scenes, incident response is probably getting a lot of work on projects from Hector's team. So Hector, how are you powering Calder 7 behind the scenes? What are you working on?
Yeah, definitely. So it's kind of going to be with the name of our team, detection and automation. I think the word to harp on really there is automation. I think that's the next evolution of where we're kind of at in the technology field as a whole, right? Like you see automation throughout constant technologies, world, social media, everything. So security has to follow the same perspective and same model. Over the past, couple decades, years, months, there's new tools that need to work together, and processes, different teams, different departments. Like you said earlier, is we have global, we have AppSec, we have development. So automation, trying to work all those pieces together and try to get everybody to honestly take all their manual tasks and make their lives easier as well as more productive, and and hopefully take us to the next stage of where we can detect as well with those automations to improve the security, visibility, and quality of our team.
Yeah, so automation is the great word in the industry that everybody loves to say right now. So to peel back behind that for a moment, if you were to say your biggest thing behind automation that you're working with and that you're helping with other teams, would you say SOAR?
Definitely, yeah. So right now, that's our primary tool, which is security orchestration. Uh, security orchestration. I think analysis and response. Sorry, but yes. So we're using a tool called Demisto XOR. So that's our primary tool, which just allows us to connect all our technologies together and kick off playbooks that can help the incident response team take automated or manual actions that used to take days, hours, minutes to seconds. So that's kind of been our biggest win this past year and a half, give or take. And now we're moving on to new domains in product security, trying to help out with vulnerabilities and some of the AppSec and vulnerability management. So we're going on to new domains to improve upon our existing automations.
Well, I've got a few more questions, but I should probably just mention this to our attendees. If anyone wants to pop any additional questions in the chat while we're talking, feel free. We've got a few that we collected from online, and I'll ask a couple more, but if any pop up, I'll let you all know, Hector and Emily. Brock decided to leave his gym. I feel like I'm telling people the story of Pokemon in case they don't know. So Brock decided to leave his gym and join Ash on his journey, which allowed him to travel the world far and wide and make new friends. What was the best job decision that you ever made?
Is that for myself?
I don't know. I'm seeing who leans in. Yeah, Hector, let's go with you.
Cool. I have two examples. So I'm going to go back to the beginning of my career and then the beginning of my relativity career.
Okay.
So two best job decisions. One was college, right? Starting to work on actual security and networking. Is I left you could say my cushiony retail job, which is, I can't say cushiony, but it was a job. It was paying well. And I decided just to get up and leave and decided to take on an internship. And from here on out, that worked out to be the better life decision, which was one for jobs. So put me into the field, gave me the experience that I wasn't getting during school, which is something we can touch on a little bit later. And I just appreciated actually jumping into the field at that point in my life, which is one of the best decisions I've made. The second one is actually joining Relativity. So prior to joining Relativity, I had a couple different offers from different industries, so services, a bank, and Relativity. I decided to go with Relativity, and I never looked back. So that turned out to be probably the best job career decision I ever made. Gave me the opportunity to learn from some of the best people around me, new technologies, processes, all the tools and procedures that I might not have experienced at a different career path or job in hindsight. So definitely I've always appreciated my decision to join Relativity.
I feel like this was so great of an answer and I wasn't expecting it. Thank you. I'm glad you joined us, but you were here before me. So, all right, Emily, your best decision you made for a job, best job decision. It doesn't have to be about where you went, just the best decision.
Okay, so I think I have like two, kind of like Hector, where I'm really grateful that I actually left the restaurant industry pretty within the same year, well, within the same 12 months that like COVID hit. So I'm really thankful for that. But then also making the transition from a career in communication to a career in cyber. And I'm really happy that I ended up at Relativity and that took a chance on me. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, you started as an intern. So you had a master's at this point at cybersecurity from George Washington. You started as an intern. I think the internship program at Relativity is just so well run. And it's a great opportunity for people to get in here to see what it's like. But also, my biggest mistake, I think, was like going into archaeology without knowing what it was going to be like. Because it's not like Tomb Raider, it's not like Indiana Jones. And you get into archaeology and you find out that you're basically living in a hotel because the sites don't come to you. You have to go to the sites. So I found out later that this was, the way it would be, and it wasn't the best field for me. So I think that I wish I'd had an internship probably. So I guess I'll ask you that question. That's not really a question we had prepared for, but I'll ask, Did you find the internship program to be a really effective way for you to realize this was the right home for you?
Yes.
Yes, excellent.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
and Hector, you didn't intern, so you started in the role, right? So how long did it take for you to realize like this was the right place for you and you felt like you could grow here?
Definitely within my first year. There was a couple shifts in the beginning, and then the first 6 months were drastically different than the second 6 months. I will tell you that, having been here during your arrival. So yes, so those first 6 months, first year was the point that I knew that this was the place to be.
I love that, the arrival. It sounds like it was an invasion from aliens. It's awesome. Yes, I invaded. Um, well, I agree actually with that one. And I'll say the first 6 months I walked around really in a blur, not really sure what was going on most of the time because we run so fast. And then the second 6 months, you get kind of used to the pace here. But the second year that you're here, you realize that you love the pace. And I feel like the third year, you're like, I couldn't go anywhere else. This is the only place I've ever found that is so much fun. And like you mentioned earlier, Hector, our role changes every few months. You think you're doing something and you're really good at this and you got it down, and then you pivot and have to learn something new, which I think is what all of us are looking for. It's kind of like this growth mindset. It's a seeking spirit. So it's been great.
I think
Okay.
one thing that's
Okay.
like really unique also about relativity is that like in your first 6 months, like everyone wants you to succeed and wants to catch you up and wants to make sure that like you're the best prepared that you can be.
Oh, that's so sweet. I love that. All right, I saw this question and I can't help but ask it. It's probably like my favorite question. So Pikachu charges himself while sleeping overnight. Stress and a lack of sleep can greatly affect this. Tell us about a stressful aspect of your role in security and how you recharge yourself. I'm going to start with Hector this time.
Yeah, so a stressful aspect, being part of my current team, detection automation, it really comes down to visibility of an actual event or an incident or any type of security, like a security event, right? So we have a lot of different visibility points, different tools, technologies, people. So I guess what keeps me up at night or stresses me out is, did we see it? Did we not see it? Did we have the proper tools, procedures to be able to respond to that properly and in an appropriate amount of time? So that's definitely something that as like my time here at Relativity is building those tools and processes to give us that edge to be able to find those threat actors and to those malicious events or any minor security events that our team from across the board would be able to respond in a proper accordance and in their best procedures.
This is all stressful. So how do you recharge? This is like, oh my God, I can't, I stay up all night worried about this, which by the way, I don't, I fall asleep really quickly watching episodes of The Office. But Hector, how do you recharge?
Yeah, so the work from home life is a little bit different. So the start is I try to keep my work to my office, try to keep the rest of the house to myself. And then when I'm at home, I try to just do just regular health fitness. I try to work out as much as I can to relieve stress that in that manner. I have a new puppy that's constantly keeping me busy. So I try to separate work from home while being at home the whole time to give my mind a break from constantly feeling like I'm not always at work, not at work while being home.
Yeah, I think those are all like valuable for everyone to learn outside of security or not, is all those things that we're working on. Emily, you're probably in this like high stress environment all the time because you're an incident response, which means you're basically waiting for something to happen. So what is the most stressful aspect? Is that it? And then how do you recharge?
Yeah, just being ready. Like all the
That's it?
time.
All
Just
the
like,
time?
yeah, just like
Okay.
being ready all the time. No, but Hector's team definitely helps with that too, just because they reassure us that we have the visibility. I know that that's his worry, but that we have the visibility and that we have everything we need for investigations. And then I like to do jigsaw puzzles and watch cooking shows.
All chopped.
Yeah, I know Hector and I have bonded over jigsaw puzzles over quarantine. So
I love puzzles. Yeah, I think that's awesome because we all want to solve problems, so it makes sense. I think everybody I know in security likes puzzles. But yeah, and I think that one thing that we probably don't address enough is that in our team, I feel like we actually like bond with each other a lot to de-stress. We have all these like subset teams and groups, like book clubs and cooking groups and things like that. And we go off on tangents talking about like, you know, how Game of Thrones ended poorly. But like, I feel like that is how we de-stress in security, is probably like having that bonding and being able to talk about things other than security or solar winds this week, etc. So, okay. I'm gonna probably ask like maybe like one more question because we've gotten a couple from the audience. I'm gonna pivot in a minute. So let's start, let's say with this, it kind of ties in with a question that somebody put together, but it is that Pokemon trainers, my son hates how I say that, Pokemon is what he wants me to say. Pokemon trainers can join many organizations such as gyms, Team Rocket, why would you do that? Or the League. What professional associations are you a member of? We'll start with that, but there is a little bit of a build on this one, just so putting it on your radar. I know you guys are preventative and you like to know what's coming. So putting it on your radar, there's a build out to this question. So are either of you, raise your hand, which one of you is a member of some kind of a league, organization, etc., outside of work? Neither.
Well,
Oh,
it depends.
Hannah.
If you consider certifications from SANS, yes. If you're talking about like I guess ISACA or and all those other I guess Intel communities and stuff, then
Yeah,
no.
I wouldn't, yeah. Oh, that's interesting. So I am actually a member of like a whole bunch of those things. I think it's because at that level, like of the getting to understand how to speak to the board about security, et cetera, like it's helpful to be in those groups. The most helpful are not formal associations of professional capacity. They're actually like hidden Slack groups. I actually find them to be super useful. So there are some hidden Slack groups out there for like chief security officers or Chicago security, et cetera. So I would ask that from you too. Are you in anything that's outside of work that talks about security?
Just honestly for myself, no, my career kind of I focus here on relativity. I do get a lot of article feeds and items like that that I like to keep up to date with myself,
Hmm.
but nothing outside. I mean, there are some events that I do speak at for DePaul, which I do have one planned. I did one this previous year, and I have one planned for 2021. So I do like to speak to the cybersecurity DePaul group for career wise. That would be my area that I focus on.
There's one of the questions actually was like, how do you, with security changing so much and so quickly, how do you keep up on everything all the time?
That's a tough one because there's information overload, right? That's in every aspect of life in this current state. So uh, you have to pay attention to what might affect not only your team, your company, your job, your role, but also your personal life. There's things in other fields that that are security related that might not be too oriented or driven towards us. So just try to read the articles and try to get the information that you can actually utilize.
Hmm. Actually had a couple questions for this one. That's a follow up. By the way, someone wants to know how we can get you to speak to our class. Hector, how can people get in contact with you if they want to ask you to speak on the topic?
I would go through, I believe, our recruiting or campus recruiting directly, I think, which is Jessica Cruz. She's helped me out in a lot of these events. You can also email me directly or reach out on LinkedIn, but campus recruiting would be the formal method to go through for relativity.
I think there's a lot of appetite in our team to speak at things and to be out there because we've realized that that was how we've gotten access to the most diverse group of people they just think differently about security. So it's not just people who've got a strong background and they went through and did computer science and then they did a master's or additional work, et cetera, and got on the job training for security. That's what's so useful about Emily. She came from a communications background, so she's great at double checking stuff before we send in our reports. And if we want to do a comms for any reason, we make sure we put that through Emily. Hector's background was kind of all over the place with that networking stuff. So you bring that to the table now that when we're worried about a security issue, you're not just thinking about it from a DNA perspective. You're thinking about that of like, well, how would this also be in networking, how that works? My background's archaeology, so I like to dig for things and get the whole perspective before, we come together. So that was really kind of the whole reason we came up with the theme, is because I Choose You Pikachu is always like this thing that it takes a different Pokemon for whatever you're dealing with. And it has to have somebody who's got different experiences, different mindset. They bring different energy to something. And those are all really valued at Relativity. And that's why I think all of us feel so at home, probably. And we feel like this was the right place for us and a great decision. This is my lead up to a great question somebody brought up and said, how would a student with a 2-year degree from community college get started with internships and then employment in this field? What are some valuable elective courses a student should consider taking academically training when they're interested in cybersecurity? So I'll open that up to either one of you. So actually, Emily, I'm going to make you start because Hector talked and really well about this, but I'm going to have you start and then we'll go to Hector. There's a couple questions you could answer with that one. So 2-year degree, where do you go from there? You did an internship. Can you give advice on how to get moving into internship? And then are there any electives you think people should do?
I think with like a lot lately in multiple industries is that like entry-level jobs require like 3 to 5 years of experience. And so I thought that doing an internship was a really great way of setting the bar, like I'm here for experience and here to learn as much as you can teach me. So I think pursuing internships or any sort of, they've been doing a lot of free webinars, especially since work from home, just kind of getting your foot in the door. They have like Discord chat things for a lot of different companies or groups. I don't know, I was really lucky to kind of know someone in the field to help guide me into like potentially where I wanted to start in security.
It's a valid point, though, that if you have somebody who's in the field who can give you some of that guidance, and I think that is one of the options you've got when you're going through this of like, do you know somebody who's in it, that's been happy in it, that's successful in it, however they define success and however you define success. I feel like with a 2-year degree, I want to be clear that like, we don't actually require a degree for our roles, at least in security. I know that for sure. And I think at Relativity, a lot of them, Brendan, you're shaking your head, you're nodding. Yeah. Okay. Just making sure.
No
I'm getting
degrees
thumbs up.
required.
Yeah. So I would say that like, it's less for me about one part of such a binary thing. It's not about, do you have a degree? Do you have experience, etc. It's about what you bring to the table. And less so about that. So it's, for me, it's always been about a pie that you put together. And so you've got a piece of it is like formal education. A piece of it is about if you have any on-the-job experience, and like it kind of goes through. One of the pieces is about certifications. Headline that's coming in a second. I'm going to ask you what certs people should get. And then the last piece of the pie that I find to be the most important is actually how much fun are you to work with. And I feel like that comes across with the way we do our interviews at Relativity really well. We can understand if there's a good core values fit, if there's the same dedication and passion that you might have that we want you to bring. And it's less about, do you check all these boxes and more about, do you have something to bring in that's going to really help us to become stronger? People mention diversity and they think it's like checking a box. It's not. For us, diversity is making us stronger because we see around corners that I wouldn't see. My background is very much cyber. So when we're sitting and talking about some problem that's going on, we have somebody in our application security team or our cloud team, and they're saying, actually, that's not how it'll hit when you go to cloud. That's what I'm looking for, is somebody who's got that different area of expertise they can bring in to say that doesn't work. And this is why this will be a problem. That's why we find it so important to have people from different backgrounds and different experiences. So I'm going to say, Hector, do you have anything to tie in a bow on this question in terms of like elective courses somebody should be looking at, anything that you think people should focus on?
Yeah, definitely. So having that actual experience, I did a 2-year community college degree. And then I moved into a bachelor's and a master's, right? So I've been down that path, been down that road. The 2-year degree was probably that was probably where I got the best, some of the easiest and best information I could possibly get. It was very helpful in terms of just learning basic skills and just being like basic networking classes to go to the electives, security 101, security plus, network plus. So that's where I learned all of my core skills, and then how to move that into like a possible internship career. Look at certifications, look at conferences, try to network with people on LinkedIn, like some certifications you could possibly get just to get you into to be on par with an early career, like security plus, network plus,
So,
cybersecurity now.
so double click on that for a sec, because one person actually asked specifically what certifications, like which one looks the best on a resume when you apply. What should people be doing for qualifications after a boot camp? So settle in on certs for a second. If you're looking at a resume for somebody, and let's say they're coming in for a role on your team, what's a cert that you want to see that would be great?
So there's two ways to answer this. One is certs are nice to have, but they still don't define the person, right? Like you said, we're here to look for people and who are going to actually be good at their job and want to do a great job and willingness to learn. But if we're actually going to look at a certification title and a name for security, you have your Security Plus, which is an entry level one. That's a great place to start for entry level career. You have your CISSP if you want to go into a more advanced management role. You
Wait, that CISSP, you have to have like 5 years of experience to
Well,
go
that's
for
what I
that.
said. More
Yeah,
advanced
yeah.
role. So there's
That's
there's
a really stressful one, dude. I did that when I took 2 weeks off from work so I could like, it's 10 different domains. It's dramatic. I mean, I don't know. It's not as stressful as like the RCA, but it was stressful.
but there's also you can also take the test. You just have to wait for somebody to sign you off on it. So there's also that. So if you do want to learn the content of the domain, it's available.
Okay.
But one I would say is like the OSCP. If you want to do pen testing, penetration testing, you can do hands-on. There's the CompTIA offers these new cybersecurity analysts that I saw. So there's a lot of entry-level certs and items that can get you into the door for low to medium cost if that's a factor.
I think that for people who are listening who are like just in the beginning of their career, I think that I started really easy. I started with like an A+ cert. Like that was take a computer apart, put it back together, that kind of thing. But I think Security Plus and then Networking Plus were probably like the entry level like certs that I started with, and then later on got to the CISSP and then the SANS certs, which are intense and expensive. But I think in the beginning, Security Plus and Network Plus were the best ones. Emily, do you have any certifications? Which one do you want to get?
I mean, there's a lot of SANS ones that are intriguing.
Anyone in particular that you're like, okay, I'm an analyst and this would help me greatly?
Yeah, there's an incident handler one specifically.
Okay,
Got my
the
eye on.
GCIH.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got that one. It's really intense. All right, I've got a couple questions that came in actually from online, so we're going to touch on these. One of them we really kind of danced around, and I want to make sure we're really specific here. The basic qualifications to get started in cybersecurity, that after a boot camp, right? What do you think are the basic qualifications? I believe like being able to understand like logs is probably a big one. For me, that was always like being able to pull that apart to understand what was taking place. Everything that someone does on a computer generates a log, hopefully. And that log, when it comes into a SIM, if you have every log being fed into one eye of Sauron, right, which we use Splunk, what does it look like and what does it mean? What does normal look like? What does normal not look like? What's a baseline? So I believe that like log management, monitoring, understanding, et cetera, is super useful. But that's for me. So Hector, what was your big thing that you think was the basic qualification that got you started?
Well, log analysis is like the primary skill of my team, so you definitely took that one from me. But just to kind of piggyback a little bit, yeah, just being able to tell a story of what happened from point A to point Z is a huge win, and just understanding that. I guess another one from my background specifically is just understanding networking, how things can actually move from point A to point B, from one computer to the next, from one subnet to another subnet, from one floor. How does one actually get into a network? So if you're thinking from a security mindset, is you have a whole network. How are those pieces actually tied together? How can you laterally move and pivot from one point to another? And just understanding basic protocols, terminology, how the technology actually works will be able to give you a huge bonus in terms of and leg up in terms of how you're actually going to identify those security threats. Did we lose Amanda? Hello?
I think you're back, maybe.
Can you hear me?
Okay, I'm back. Sorry, I lost my internet. I know. New Orleans does not do well with any storms that come in around. So yeah, lost the internet. I'm now tethered to my phone, so we'll see how this goes. All right, but I did catch most of that. Emily, you did not answer.
I've momentarily panicked and I forgot what the question was.
It's totally fine. Basic qualification to get started in
Okay.
cybersecurity.
I think for IR, like wanting to know the whole picture and wanting to find all of the answers and really dig in. And I think one thing that is kind of unique to IR is that when we come into an event, like a serious event or an incident, whether or not it's from our team or not, we're kind of expected to know the workings of everything already. So that's why I think having people from different backgrounds can be really useful, because some people might know a lot more about architecture or a lot more about like host-based detection. So, I mean, if you can find something that's really interesting to you, specifically like in security or in computer science, kind of running with that.
Well, we've got a couple more questions. I'm going to try to get them in because we've had them popping up. One of them I think is important probably for everyone, and I think I hear this a lot. What does a typical day for you look like? So we'll start with Emily and then we'll go to Hector.
I think we've talked about it a little bit, but every single day is different. It could be an entire day spent looking at solar winds. It could be an entire day doing an investigation. It can be working with our tools. It can be training. I think that's one of the really great aspects about it.
Okay, every day is different. Hector?
Yeah, I guess mine's a little bit different. I'll give you the management lifestyle versus like maybe an analyst. Management is a lot of project planning and strategy and being able to work with other teams and departments. So like I mentioned earlier, automation. So being able to get people to buy in, find their needs. So a lot of syncs, a lot of details, a lot of understanding of how other teams are operating. And then more from like an analyst perspective on my team, it's actually looking through logs, threat hunting, log analysis, creating custom signatures and creating custom code for automation. Putting the actual hands on the keyboard is what my team is focused on at that level.
Well, I'll throw in my answer in case anybody wants to know what mine is like. I wake up in the morning and I start on phone calls, normally on my phone because I've got kids to get to school and everything. Thankfully, they still go to school right now. And then I spend all day on Zoom meetings until around maybe 5 or 6, somewhere around there. And then I can do work. So, but the great thing is a lot of my work is actually done in those meetings as well. So Zoom is where I get my work done, thankfully. And for moments like these, which are kind of like actually a coffee break, this is like we get to talk, we get to hang out. So pretty excited when we have these opportunities. I have a question in the chat box, which is inflammatory in nature. I hope you're going to be excited about this one. So I'll start to answer it, and then I'll ask Hector to jump in. Do you use AI? I hear a lot about it. So I'll start by saying that the first reason this is inflammatory is how people define AI. And so artificial intelligence versus machine learning. For me, and I'm going to set the table for you, Hector, but the way that I approach this very much, and Relativity as a company uses AI. So there's this, but I'm talking just about insecurity, right? AI, from my understanding and concept, is that this is a bigger thing. This is about intelligent machines that are able to simulate human thinking capability and behaviors. Machine learning is the application of this, like the subset of this group that's allowing the machine to learn from the data that's being generated. I believe that in security, we use machine learning more than AI currently. AI is very much relativity, and as a company and as a product. But I believe in your team and with Splunk, we really focus on the machine learning subset of that. Hector, I'm open to argue on this one, so let's go. I'm the punching one, so come on, let's do it.
Well, not going to actually disagree with you on that. So AI, I think, is kind of what you kind of said, is more computers driving, making human decisions for their own, their own benefit or their own decision or their own outcome. Where machine learning is taking the data that already exists, statistics, which is what we're doing, like you said, in Splunk. We use a tool called UVA or Cyanta XV, which takes all our data statistics, makes them into dictionaries, and a simple form. It spits out nice anomalies, behaviors, outliers, things like that, which then we build signatures on. So machine learning is definitely the subset that we're focusing on, not the computer driving decisions for us.
Well, speaking of decisions, one of the questions that popped up in chat is, what is the best way for you to determine which pillar or focus area in security is best for you? I'm going to start this, and then Emily, since you're at that crossroads, I definitely want to hear what your input is on this one, so I'm prepping you. I personally felt like it was about the fundamental thing I wanted to solve. So what is it you're looking to solve? And as Emily had mentioned earlier, like, and I think Hector did too, actually, like, you want to know the story. You want to know how things are happening. And fundamentally, I'm nosy. I want to know, like, who did what, when, why, are they allowed to, what happened, you know, how can I prove it, etc. So I want to put the story together. So I think if you're drawn to doing things that are investigatory in nature, I think you're automatically looking at cyber. That's like a theory for mine. If you're drawn to how things work and how to break them, I think you're looking at product. Like, I feel like that's an area, it's a very big part of it. And I think if you're drawn to how to implement the process around things and strengthen it, and how to make sure things are done well each time, this is like your ORM, what we call operational risk management, people who want to build the muscle about doing things the right way every time, but an overall general information security interest. And then our global team as a pillar is just a subset of several teams, but they definitely have our threat intelligence. This is the group that hangs out in dark web and is, you know, constantly harvesting to figure out what's going on and being preventative in nature. So I think it's about what you want to solve. For me, I wanted to solve that, like, I'm nosy and I want to know what happened. And so that's why I went into investigations. Emily, what's your thinking on this one?
I don't know if this is like the best way, but
yeah, it's your way, so it's the best way for you.
Go way. Shadowing opportunities. Like, we have Relativity fellows, we have like internship opportunities, and then if you're in security or in like another department, like being able to shadow for a day or visit or just have like a one-on-one chat with someone who's in the industry, and talk about like what they like, what different options they have.
All right, shadowing's a great one. Not going to say it's not. We've got 1 minute left. So Brendan, is there anything that we should be wrapping up with to make sure we cover? Because I feel like we went through a lot. We still have some questions to get to, but we've got 1 minute. So I want to make sure we end on time. It's very important in security. We always want to be on time. Yep. Is there anything you think we need to hit on still?
No, I think that pretty much covers things. One thing I would say is, especially from a recruiter standpoint, if you're interested in opportunities and have questions about any postings, you can reach out to me directly as well too. Like I said too, just always feel free to look on our career pages, as we'll have a lot more roles coming up after the end of the year here as well too, in security and beyond. So definitely pay attention to that.
Oh, so exciting. I love that. I love to hear that. We actually have like 5 roles open in Krakow right now for security. So big movements there. But Emily, Hector, I appreciate you for joining today. I know that we hang out and talk a lot at work, but this really did feel like I could just hang out and have coffee with you both, who I already enjoy spending time with. So thanks for joining me. Thanks for being here. And thanks for, I hope, giving you a little bit of information to people who are interested in Relativity and how we operate a high functioning team here. Thank you all. Have a good day.